Oh, the weather outside is frightful.
All right, guys. You guys ready? This is big controversy.
No, there is no controversy. It's a Christmas movie. There, I said it. There, controversy ended.
Controversy is this the greatest Christmas movie of all time? Or the
Ooh,
most
I think
entertaining?
that might be the better question.
All right, well, here we go. Three, two, one. Welcome back to the nightcap. What's up, guys?
Welcome back, guys. Cheers.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Cheers,
to the
guys.
jingle cap.
Oh,
Corrections and
yes.
retractions. Can answer a question of the ages, question of the decade. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? But I think
Yes.
everyone probably can guess the way we lane.
Absolutely, man. It's there's no doubt about it. I thought maybe there might be a debate if after I rewatched it. No, it strengthened my position even more that it is a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I think I'm even more entrenched than I was going into it after watching it again. But we'll get into that into the review. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what's everybody drinking tonight?
I'm back on the Truly, Truly, mango Truly. Just, a little refreshing for
You
this.
just can't quit the Truly, man.
I can't quit it, man. Can't quit it.
What about
Nice.
you, Rich? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a liter of cola.
Nice, big gulps.
With a San Miguel sweatshirt on, makes perfect sense. There you
All
go.
right, there you go. All right. Well, I'm drinking. You can't quit the Truly. I can't quit the hops. Back on the
Ugh,
IPA. Little Ballast Point
ugh.
Sculpt in action. Very tasty. Lots of flavor.
I'll fight you to death on that about these IPAs, man. But
All right. Well, let's read the synopsis real quick on Die Hard, and then we'll hop into our review here. So let me pull up my notes. And for some reason, I thought this movie came out in the 90s, but no, it's came out in 1988.
yeah,
Die Hard is a 1988 action film directed by John McTiernan, written by Jeb Stewart and Steven D'Souza, stars Bruce Willis, Alan Rickman, Alexander Goodenough, Bonnie Bedelia, based off a 1979 novel, based off
that
a
was
book, guys.
A
this is
novel?
a novel.
Nothing Lasts
Oh,
Forever by Roderick Thorpe. Die Hard follows the New York City police detective John McClane, who is caught up in a terrorist takeover of a Los Angeles skyscraper while visiting his estranged wife. The film features Reginald Bell Johnson, William Atherton, sorry, I could pronounce that, Paul Gleason, and Hart Bachner in supporting roles. The movie had a budget of around $30 million with a box office of $140 million. And it also
okay.
got nominated for 4 Academy Awards. Bet you
No
didn't know
Oh,
that.
way.
wow.
Huh.
For
I
best
didn't know
sound,
that
best
either.
editing, stuff kind of in regards to like production. But
Mhm.
it was considered, pretty much a success, even though there was a lot of questions when the movie came out, specifically regarding Bruce Willis, who at that time was basically known as a TV actor. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the big name action stars actually turned it down. And yeah, but he performed admirably, and really created a franchise with this movie.
Pretty much
Yeah, I
made
was,
him, I
I
think.
was, I was saying like if this was a Bruce Willis's like launching pad to becoming like an action star. Like I
Mhm.
don't remember him from anything before this.
Yeah,
No,
I get,
either.
I'm blanking on that TV show he used to do before this, but yeah, this really made him into a movie star, into like a leading man, really.
Yeah.
Pretty
Well,
much.
to where he's still making movies to this day.
Yeah, I mean, how many movies are in the franchise now? Five?
Five?
Five? I want to say five.
Yeah,
I think
so
it's
Could be
five.
wrong, but I want to say five.
I think you're right. I think it is five.
well, let's touch on the plot itself. So just looking over my notes here, it's kind of funny going back to this time period too, like in the 90s and 80s. Like at this time, when you said terrorists, you mainly thought of like economic terrorists, European terrorists, right?
Yeah, you don't
Like the
think?
war on terror. It was really a
Yeah,
different type of thing.
Different kind of
Um,
terrorist. Yeah.
Overall, the setting itself is interesting. I mean, he's like, it's all takes place in this building. They're all trapped here, but it's kind of makes it interesting. And then we talked already, obviously, about the setting. It's taking place during Christmas, but it's not your typical Christmas. This is in LA. So
hmm
that gives it a different vibe too. So I think it's pretty cool. I think overall for plot, I end up giving it a 5. I mean, it's not a dream within a
nope.
dream, but at the same time, I thought it was cool, and it's a little bit more. I mean, it's still over the top, but it's a little bit more realistic than some of like the Stallone and like Arnold movies. You know what I mean? Where it was just like one guy taking on a whole small army. You know what I mean? It was an action movie, but it was a little bit more grounded. It wasn't so like kind of like ridiculous.
Well, technically, he's still a one man army taking out like a bunch of terrorists.
12. It was 12 terrorists. All right. Still
Well,
Still,
best.
I give the plot a 7 because it's so 80s. It's like it's bad guys like like they're not terrorists. They said like we're not terrorists, so they're just pretty much just bad guys just wanting to steal like 40 million in bearer bonds.
40
Yeah.
million, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's Christmas time, Christmas Eve, Christmas party, and yeah, the Nakatomi building. Which building was that in LA, by the way? I'm not
I think
sure.
it's the Fox Plaza, or
I-
it's in the Fox Plaza. It's funny because
Yeah.
actually, me and my wife were watching one of these TV shows, and it actually touched on it recently. They pointed at the real estate agent pointed out that was actually the Nakatomi
okay.
building from the movie. It's so funny now because it's like almost like a cultural icon thing. I mean, part of this movie, like everyone knows like that the name of that building, even though it's like a
Yeah,
fiction
it's
place.
Nakatomi.
Yeah, it's Nakatomi building. Yeah.
Rich, would you give it in terms of plot?
I gave the plot a 8. It was kind of cool. Like, he guy down on his luck on Christmas Day, coming to see his wife that he didn't think was going to make it, and then gets caught in a whirlwind of gunfire and ends up saving the day from just being a cop. I thought it was cool.
Yeah.
Good, easy plot line, moved smoothly, wasn't over bloated. I
Yeah,
knew
he
what
said
I was
it
getting
hims-
into.
He
Everything
even said
kinda makes
himself, like,
sense, you know?
after.
Yeah,
The premise isn't
everything
too
makes-
big for
exactly.
itself. Like it's still believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was like, accidentally got invited to this Christmas party. Now here we are.
Yeah, right. When he's having
Yeah.
a conversation with Hans and the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just this movie has aged pretty well for me. Even watching it again, it's been a while since I've seen it. It's one of those things where you kind of catch it where it's on TV here and there, and now it's actually becoming like a holiday thing.
It is.
It comes on during the December and whatnot. But let's get into the production, at least for the time period here in the 80s. We touched on it earlier about this actually got nominated in some senses for editing and sound effects and stuff like that. But there's a number of stunts in the movie as well. At least for the time period, I mean, for me watching it, and Al, you might disagree with me, I actually thought it looked pretty good watching it back again. Outside of like, there was something about the 80s, like it wasn't until we got to the 2000s where people actually started aiming their guns. There's a lot of hip shooting going on.
Oh, God.
With submachine
Yeah.
guns, shooting from below. Like,
I wasn't
other
sure
than
where to bring that up at, in directing or in production. You know what I mean?
Well,
'cause
that-
a lot of hip shooting. You can't shoot anything like that.
Like 80s
I
and
know,
90s.
especially fully automatic hip shooting,
Yeah.
like you're not going to hit anything. You maybe hit the side of a car.
That in 80s and 90s
You call it
were
a
when
belt,
they
you know what I mean?
when-
Yeah.
they had unlimited bullets. Like they never. That's the editing that next thing you know, like a revolver is gonna have like 20 bullets. So
Right.
Yeah.
and what'd you get the production?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, for production overall, I gave it a 14.
Okay.
Big action, big explosions. And then, like I said, again, just touching on the stunts again. I mean, there's just a number of times in there like that. I always think about the scene where he's in the elevator shaft and he's climbing down with the gun, like holding him up. Like I still, even watching it to this day, I get nervous, even though I know like exactly what's gonna happen. I get kind of tense, like, oh man. And
Yeah.
even the scene too where he jumps off the roof, and there's a giant explosion behind him.
Yeah.
It's still pretty cool. And for 1988, it's still, at least to me, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there's a lot of iconic like stunts, like you said, like the elevator scene, him jumping out with like the fire hose and all these explosions. But I gave the production 16 out of 20. But and I think you're gonna you took me by surprise when they said that this had like the best editing and all that, because there was like some scenes where if there should have been a better angle, because it was such apparently that it was such it's a stunt double, that it was kind of like I get that in the 80s it was kind of like that and the editing kind of rough. But when you said that this won Oscar for best editing, I'm like, must have been a low standard that year.
Ouch.
It was the 80s, man.
Rich, what'd you do in terms of production?
I give it a 16. I mean, I don't want
We all
to.
matched, Sean. I think we all
Yeah.
gave this. Or no, hold on. I
I
think I
like-
gave it 14 actually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you gave it a low
Oh,
score.
I'm actually lower. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to touch upon the same things you guys touched upon, but it was just good in 1988 to produce a movie like this and like you said, the stunts. I think he did a good job. I mean, can't really hate it. I mean, the hip shooting that bothered. I couldn't help but laugh every
Yeah.
time they shot a gun. I mean, and the other thing too, I'll save it for the acting though. But the terrorists, man, the blonde terrorist guys. I just started laughing
Germans.
watching
The
it again.
Germans.
The
Yeah.
German guy.
One thing I'll just touch on before we move into the acting, just in terms of the production again on the stunts, is at least reading the notes right now off Wikipedia. Apparently, Willis did do a number of his own stunts and even lost partial hearing in one of his ears from one of the explosions and stuff. So I don't know.
Is that the
It's
helicopter
interesting.
scene at the top? or when the building explodes and he falls.
Yeah, apparently when he did that scene with the fire hose, he did it, and they had to like cover him in fire retardant, like
Heard it.
lit,
I wonder if that's where he
like
lost
that.
his hearing too.
Yeah,
'cause
so he wouldn't get burned and stuff. And so yeah,
That's crazy.
he really pushed himself on that. And I'm sure, I mean, like we talked about, I mean, up until this point, he was a TV star, so I'm sure he hadn't done anything even close to this in terms of stunts. So props to him for putting himself out there on the line like that. But that sucks that he obviously lost maybe some of his hearing. So
Maybe he felt he had something to prove, so he laid it all out there.
that's true. That's true. So all right. Well, let's get into the performances themselves. I mean, at this point, Die Hard, I mean, it's John McClane's like a cultural icon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. I mean, everyone knows that.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Like, I was wondering who was going to say it first. I wanted to say it first in the intro, but then I was like, I'll figure out let it like stew.
I'll say that.
But now, I'll say a shout out to even his, his nemesis in this, Hans, Alan Rickman. I thought he was a really effective
he's a great actor.
villain.
Yeah, he was great.
Actor too.
And who would have thought it? Like 15 years later, he would have been cheating on his wife with the office Jezebel in Love Actually in London.
That's right. We just saw.
Oh yeah, same actor.
He's a lot less intimidating in Love Actually.
What'd you get the acting?
In terms of acting, I mean, honestly, I like a lot of the performances in this. I thought a lot of the the characters were just likable, for lack of a better word. Even Al's character, Val Johnson's character, he does like a kind of cool like yin and yang to John, because John's so brash and like kind of machismo. He's like the softy, waddling cop, and you kind of see them play off of each other. So
he's
like
the Twinkie.
Yeah, and then like you were touching on, Rich, like we have these kind of robotic German terrorists that you only get to know, but then you have Hans. He's kind of the mastermind, kind of pulling the strings. And honestly, I thought overall there was a lot of good performances. I give it 24.
Oh wow. Well, I gave it a 20. I didn't give it that high, although I did like the performances, the Willis's performance, Rickman's performance, except for when he got found out by John McClane and he tried to do that fake American accent, and then it was okay in the beginning, but then we kept on talking. It was like, all right, well, you're speaking just like Hans Gruber now, so maybe that's why he knew that was Hans Gruber. I don't know.
Right.
And but this was like an 80s movie, so there was so many like stereotypical, like there was like the obnoxious chief, there was the sleazy reporter, the asshole FBI guys.
Yes, they were over the top assholes.
Oh my god!
Like it was like
Taiwan or what? He's
like this reminds just of Saigon, right? He's like, "Oh, junior high, asshole."
Yeah. Like, and the dialogue. Thank you. Like I was about to mention, the dialogue too was very like 80s. Like, I'm the one that gets to kill him, no one else. Yeah. I'm like, but besides that, it was, it was what it was. The acting was still pretty good. Like, nothing stood out in a bad way. And then except for like, I don't know if I should put this in there, but German terrorists, right? But then there was that one Asian guy that was in all the action movies back then.
Yeah.
As one of the henchmen. And
the bald Asian guy. Yeah.
And
then their hacker is like a cornball brother. So there you go.
Oh man. I don't know. I mean, so score wise, you give it a 20?
I give it a 20.
Rich, what did you give it in terms of score?
I gave it a 20 as well. I mean,
nothing.
I mean, except for the assistant guy, the cokehead. Man, that sleazeball. His acting was just a little much for me.
Yeah.
Even watching it again, I was like, God, you're trying too hard.
I guess for me, like it wasn't like tropey and like kind of cliche. It was just that I still liked it. Like, I don't know, watching it back, like I still liked all of them. Like even the limo driver Argyle, like Argyle. He's like a cartoon character. Brother. Yeah, but you know what? He was still funny. Like he was still likable. You know what I mean? And you saw him in the car, like drinking, like totally oblivious while things are blowing up around him. Talking to his girl, dancing. You're like, all right.
Until like he turns on the TV, he's like, oh shit, I'm in the parking lot.
He's like, oh man, yeah. It was just fun. Like it didn't take it took itself serious, but not that serious.
Yes.
Yeah. And even like you said with with Ellis who gets killed, right? The businessman guy, and he's like booby, right? Like talking to all businessmen. He's like, I close $1 million deals every day, right? He's like, I'll go negotiate with these guys.
Dude, capiche?
Yeah, exactly. You just you want John McClane? I'll give him to you. All right.
He was your typical 80s business guy.
One thing I'll say, I mean, and this maybe some people won't agree with this, but I miss like that time period because that's when I grew up. I was a little kid, like machismo, like like even just seeing John McClane like spark up a cigarette, like can you even do that now? Or will they come out?
Yeah.
And he's
when
like in
he
the
sparked up the
airport.
cigarette, like inside the car, like inside the
Yeah.
limo, you're like, oh no, like you
Yeah.
can't do that now. Like, I'm like,
Like
guys,
when he's
can we go? I would love to go back to that time. Like, can we just go back to that time where, like, we could just do whatever the fuck we want, and then no one's gonna try to cancel us? Can we
yeah.
just go
There
back to
was the
that?
scene where he goes to the Christmas party and that random guy comes up to him, kisses him on the cheek. He's
And
like,
he's like, fucking California.
Californians,
Like
weird
it was just
place.
funny. Like and we're from California, but it still made us laugh. Like I was just like,
Yeah, and I was laughing.
I laughed. Yeah, it was good.
All right, well, let's get into the directing overall on this one. I'm actually Al, you take it off on this one.
Oh, directing, I gave it a 21. It's pretty decent. I think for me, it was a tad too long. This was like,
Yeah.
we were like sniffing like over 2 hours. This was like
It was
2 hours,
over
10
2
minutes.
hours. Yeah.
No, was it?
So it may be like shave off maybe 5, 6 minutes, we'll probably make it a little bit more streamlined. And like I said, like I kind of touched on it like in the production, like there was some times where the stunts, like it's like so obvious that it's a stunt double that it kind of threw me off. But other than that, and the continuity, right? I like that they made the whole barefoot thing, that they explained it the first time. All right, I killed the first terrorist. The shoe was too small. But then he killed several terrorists after that. How come he didn't try their shoes on? So
I think for the rest of the
continuity.
parts, though, he's pretty much running, like moving, like he killed guys, but it was like action. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't.
he was on the go constantly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm talking continuity here, guys. So,
All right.
But you're right. He could have grabbed some shoes.
yeah, especially when it became such a big part when they shot out the glass and
By then it was
then
too late, Al. All right.
Yeah. Why does he need shoes at this point?
Yeah.
I guess. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I actually gave directing a 23.
Wow.
I mean, you know what killed it for me was all the hip shooting, and like I just couldn't. I love this movie. Don't get me wrong, but every time there was a gunfight, it just took me away, and I just started wanting to laugh sometimes. Like, hey, no wonder you're not hitting anything. You're shooting
Yeah.
for the hip, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's why I gave it a 23. Not the biggest score, but just kind of over there. So
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we have similar scores, but I'm just a little bit more up on this one than you guys. I give it 26.
Oh wow.
I think
Oscar
mainly
win.
because I like like I said, I think it's just a fun movie. Like, yeah, it's got its like it's things that could have done better. It's got its warts. I mean, it's of 1988. I mean, there's obvious
Yeah.
things in here you can see. You're like, oh, that's kind of cheesy. It could have been done better. But overall, the pacing and I know Al, you touched on the length. It moved well for me. I don't know. I never felt bored. The only gripe I really had was at the very, very end when the bad guy comes back to life and then Al, the
'Cause he was
police officer,
hanging.
shoots him. It was just like, okay, I didn't need that. Like that was just let it. We were good. This is right out right away. You know, roll the credits.
But they kind of tied it back with the whole conversation where he's not able to fire a gun ever since that he shot a kid.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I get it. But
yeah,
I think if you wanted to interject him into the story where he actually shoots someone, there was plenty of opportunity. That one felt like an afterthought. They're like, oh crap, we forgot about that. Let's throw this part in real quick so he gets a chance to do, like, you know what I mean? Like there's plenty of terrorists running around. He could have shot the guy in the lobby. Like, you know what I mean? He could have gotten he could have figured out something. I don't know. But that part kind of bothered me a little bit. But overall, I mean, I like the movie. And like I said, it's just a different take. It's like an action Christmas movie, but the setting is different too, that it's in LA. And I like the ending, in particular, the way that they did it, where it's like, papers raining down from the sky from the building that's like been destroyed. And they're playing, Let It Snow. And it just kind of like, it's a nice ending to it. And then even to John's wife, I thought she was cast well. I think she was a believable wife. Like I believe that they're like a married couple, sometimes nowadays in modern movies, like the chick is like so bombshell, you're just kind of distracted more than anything. Cause you're just like, okay, is this really his wife? It's, some supermodel, you know what I mean? Like, oh, all right, well,
no.
I guess she's
this one's like
mom,
yeah, she was like a businesswoman, like, her career trajectory was going up. So, and he couldn't deal with it. All right. That's why they got estranged.
Yep.
All right. Did we touch on everyone's scores on this one? All right, cool. So I guess we're rolling into X Factor already. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. So in terms of X Factor, I mean, I've already kind of gushed on this movie a little bit. Give it an 8. Pretty much for all the reasons that we talked about. And then also, too, this spawned a whole franchise, like we said in the beginning, too. So for me now, I mean, it's kind of a staple in terms of,
when I think about Christmas movies. This is something I want to watch, especially as a guy, you know, and from the time period. And it's aged surprisingly well. I mean, this movie is what, 30 years old? And I actually enjoyed it. So what did you guys give it in terms of your X Factor?
The X Factor, I was gonna give it an 8, but then I was like, I better stick to brand, so I gave it a 10.
I would
Just
recognize
because,
it if you didn't give it a 10.
but
Gotta be
because like,
consistent.
yeah, you said that it launched like a huge franchise, but also this set a standard for action movies when you're locked inside a building. They set a standard for that, because how many air duct scenes have we seen in action movies after this?
Yeah.
Like, so,
I didn't even know you could even fit in one of those until I saw this movie. And then I realized
I don't think so. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if buildings were built different back then, where I could shimmy in there, but
yeah.
I've never seen a building where I could shimmy inside a duct.
I don't think you could. You're pretty stocky.
Yeah, I'm ectomorph. You know what I'm saying? Endomorph. And also X Factor. You mentioned the whole like it made it look like it was snowing with like the papers and all that. If I would have taken one of those bearer bonds and just like slip that in there. True. I'm like, man, no one's gonna miss this.
Right. I gave it a 10 actually.
Nice.
Just going back after all these years and watching it again, it just never gets old. And talking about the franchise, I immediately watched Die Hard 2 afterwards, and the following day I watched Die Hard 3. So
nice.
There you go.
I got a couple more to go, but I'll get through the whole the franchise. So I give it a 10. It's stuck on me. It's a great movie. I mean, this kind of really made Bruce Willis one of my kind of like favorite actors when I was a kid, and watching some of his movies growing up after.
Yeah.
So, I actually just saw a commercial. I think it was a Die Hard battery commercial that's kind of like
I think I saw one too, actually. I think
yeah. And it was like Bruce Willis, and he kind of like made a riff on like the movie. So yeah, it's definitely ingrained in the culture.
Yeah, no, it's a good, I don't know, like I said, to me it's action, but it's fun, and it's got that Christmas tint on it too. So it's cool. So overall I really enjoyed it. So overall score, I gave it a 77.
Oh, there you go. I'm not too far behind. I gave it a 74.
Okay.
I gave it a 77.
Oh yeah, cool.
Nice.
So we're all pretty much clustered there in the 70s. I mean, I'm sure this movie too has just some extra little sentimental value too, because we all grew up watching it.
Oh, yeah.
And then with Christmas and everything too. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I mean, yeah, this isn't like, it didn't get nominated for best acting or directing in Academy Awards, but it's a good movie, and it's a good holiday fun. But let's touch on this before we call it a wrap. Christmas movie versus non-Christmas movie. If there's anything you can say that goes against it, I think we're all pretty much pro Christmas movie on this.
Yes.
But if there's anything you could go against it, what would you say? Play devil's advocate for a second.
All right. Well, if I'm thinking about the people that are wrong, that doesn't consider this a Christmas classic, the only thing I could think of is that they're gonna say it's just an action movie. That's it.
Right.
An action movie with like some Santa Christmas stuff laying around.
Well,
that's my thinking. But to me, this is a Christmas classic, guys. That's it.
I could totally play devil's advocate for this, because I can see it why people don't consider this a Christmas movie. Just because it has a Christmas setting doesn't hold the Christmas element that you're used to seeing in like classic Christmas movies. The joy, the gifts, the giving, the Hollywood, the Christmas feel, you know what I mean? The Christmas joy of giving. It doesn't capture that, unless you want to give away bullets and stuff like he's giving away. It doesn't capture that Christmas essence. So that I could see being the argument.
One thing too, I mean, you could say is there's no, reference to Santa Claus. There's no Santa, right? There's no exchanging of gifts, but there's Christmas tree and a Christmas party. But yeah, so it's not heavy on the Christmas ritual part of it, but the setting is still Christmas. And I would say I'll describe this as your dad's Christmas movie. This isn't for the kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is for the guys out there. And so, you know what? Underserved during this time of year. So it's nice to get, have one for the guys.
Absolutely.
All right.
Like it can't all just be, the Christmas story. And I like that movie too.
I love off the red-nosed reindeer and all the, jingle bells and all that stuff too. But sometimes you just want a little yippee-ki-yay. All right.
Yeah. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. There, I said it again. I'll say it again.
Right,
I have to say it. I have to say it.
All right. Well, from the nightcap, yippee-ki-yay.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Have a good night, guys.
3 times.
I was going for 6, but yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Still got time. It's still recording.
That's good. We got it. you.